I was excited to do another Chappelle clip with you, Dwayne, because
Absolutely.
our first clip got the most interaction than any episode that we've ever done. People just love Dave Chappelle and can't get enough. Plus, he's a very
Absolutely.
polarizing figure in the culture and certainly online.
Yeah.
He has a lot of detractors, or at least people that attempt to detract from his what is an amazing career, and he's just an amazing artist.
He's forged his way, and he deserves everything he's gotten, to the point where he has enough fans where he doesn't have to tiptoe around things. But still, I don't think he's like trying to piss people off, or he's not really trying to punch down, but he's in a unique position to almost be like champion comics, and so we're not on the short end of the stick in terms of bullying. Because the thing about, I heard Mace the rapper talk about this recently, is that everyone who's triggered, sensitive, and all these things, I respect all of that, but no one talks about how they bully other people. And I think Chris has said some things, and I think the vitriol didn't really match what he said, but he's uniquely qualified to deal with it, because you can't like twist his words, you can't speed him up. It's like basketball, like you can't speed Luka up. He's gonna do what he does. You can't speed Dave Chappelle up. So you can't drown out, because it's a combination of him being so good and his audience being so vast.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good thing though, because maybe real conversations can be had, but either way, he is a great artist, and on one hand, I aspire to be like him, but on the other hand, I don't, because I just don't. I don't always want the smoke. Sometimes the juice isn't worth the squeeze. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, if you want to use an older reference, the candle isn't worth the game.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
in case any of our viewers are curious about that, back before there was electricity, if you wanted to play any sort of game at night in your little hut, you had to light a candle, and they weren't cheap. So there's that saying, the game isn't worth the price of the candle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's in a tough position with that,
Right,
and I don't think I would want that either.
Yeah, you're not lighting a candle to play trouble.
That's right, for sure. This clip is from The Dreamer, which is the last Netflix special, 2023. This is a great clip. You want to intro the clip? What he's talking about here?
First talks about the Chris Rock slap, and it's really funny. And it's on Netflix if you have it, or steal someone's password. And then, so he sets the tone by talking about Chris Rock. He called Chris Rock. It was funny, and Chris Rock refused to be a victim, and and all of that stuff. And then this is where he now talks about how he was attacked.
Everything's funny. Everything's funny till it happens to you. 3 months. A mere 3 months after that terrible attack that Chris Rock endured, I was on stage at the Hollywood Bowl, and a lunatic jumped out of the crowd and attacked me. Now, I gotta tell you, if it happens to you, you don't even know what the fuck is happening. It was like slow motion. I just looked over. I don't know this nigga. I just looked and said, oh my God, I'm being attacked. And this motherfucker was ragged. He jumped at me. He was like, ah. I'm old, but I'm fast. I caught this motherfucker's head with my hand and pulled his hoodie over his eyes. I can still feel his head in my hand. It was spongy. He had been growing dreadlocks. Not the beautiful dreads that breastafarians grow. These were accidental LA homeless dreads. This shit had leaves and sticks and bottle caps and shit in it. Some kind of grease. I was like, ugh, like this. And then I fell down. And he knocked me all the way on the ground. And I was like, man, this is a bad situation. I don't know if I'm gonna die or what's gonna happen. But in that moment of vulnerability, you know what occurred to me that had never occurred to me before in my life? In that moment, it occurred to me that bodyguards should not wear dress shoes to work. Travis, this nigga Travis came out slipping aside on some kind of beautiful loafer and fell flat on his back. I said, oh my God. Now both of us are down.
I mean, I love how he said it so slow. Because he could have said, I learned that bodyguards shouldn't wear dress shoes to work. Would have got a laugh. But he needed to, because he's like, you're not going to guess what I'm about to say. So I can take my time with it, make sure everyone's fully listening, make sure it comes out super clear, hilarious, and beautiful loafers.
And you don't see that coming because in that moment you're thinking, he's like, he's going to say something about, I thought I was going to die. But no, he's thinking beyond that, 3 steps beyond that. Like, bodyguards really are unprepared for situations like that. So you just don't see that coming.
And it's
so
great,
funny.
too, because, I watch a lot of Dateline and true crime. And, yeah, people do have those kind of thoughts, I'm about to die. But then the brain is, intrusive thoughts are not like, they don't shut off when trauma is happening. I mean, you get focused, but you would have, that's like he tapped into the human condition, like, thinking of something unrelated or sort of related tangentially,
Definitely tangential to the situation.
Like
but yeah, you might, who knows what you might think about when you might think about some girl you made out with in 2005 before you croak. You're like, this is going to be my last thought thinking about that kiss.
You know what you might say when death is looming? Rosebud.
I gotta handle this shit myself. So I pop that back, boom. And then the kid that knocked me down, he popped out, boom, and we looked at each other and realized, at the same time, I was bigger than him. And that motherfucker took off running. And I started to chase him, and I said, fuck him. I picked the microphone up. So I'm gonna finish this show now. That's right. For 3 months, before that, I'd been making fun of Chris Rock. And people would ask me all the time. They'd say, Dave, what would you do if you were Chris Rock and Will Smith slapped you in the face? And to this day, the answer is the same. Well, I don't know what I would have done. I've never been in a situation that extreme. But I do know now what Will Smith would not have done. And that is enjoy the rest of his evening. Man, listen. We gave that kid a good while. We was whooping his ass. Not we. I mean, I was on stage trying to think of a joke to tell, but they was beating this nigga up right behind me. Everybody could see it. Everybody could see it. And I'm sitting up there trying to think of what to say. And I'm tongue-tied. Me, of all people, can't think of anything to say. Look at my karma. Just that moment. Of all the people in the world, Chris Rock walks from backstage, walks up to me in front of 20,000 people, grabs the mic out of my hands and looks at the crowd and goes, was that Will Smith? Man, motherfuckers fell out of their chairs laughing. I was standing there looking stupid. I was fucking furious because I'm thinking in my mind, nigga, this is my attack. You got attacked 3 months ago. Now you have jokes. So I snatched the mic back from Chris and tried to get one off, but my shit did not go good at all. I didn't know what to say. I was just like, it was a trans man. And the crowd was like, boo. It's LA, we like trans people, boo. I know, it felt so bad. I felt so bad. But I know why I did it. You'd have to be there to understand, but man, when that guy tackled me, it was like it's like a movie or something. You gotta picture this. Picture a famous person you like. Every famous person you could imagine was at that show. It was like the biggest night that Hollywood had ever seen. And when that guy tackled me, he cleared the bleachers. I had to watch the tape afterwards to know this happened, but as soon as he tackled me, Jamie Foxx was the first motherfucker that jumped out of the crowd. He was wearing a white cowboy hat, like he knew this shit was gonna happen to him. Never seen this nigga in a cowboy hat before. And Jamie started chasing that motherfucker around like any given Sunday. And that kid was fast as shit, was juking and shaking, and they broke Jamie's ankles, and he just kept running. And then Jon Stewart from The Daily Show ran from backstage and jumped at this motherfucker like Super Jew. He was like, and the kid seen Jon coming, so he jumped back and Jon went flying that way. And this kid was fast, and then he turned around. He sees the emergency exit. He starts running for the emergency exit. Just before he got to the door, motherfucking Puff Daddy from Bad Boy Records jumped in front of the door. That nigga was like,
You know, I love his Harlem Shake, but and he's done it on the show too. It's like, because I can actually Harlem Shake, right? I mean, I'm not gonna be at the Rutger in Harlem at halftime doing a Harlem Shake, or I'm not gonna be in the Eve video, but I can Harlem Shake.
Is there a clip out there that we could perhaps link to in the description for our viewers? To
No, but I mean, I'll Harlem Shake for you if you want. But I think, but it's funny that you do it wrong, but just right enough that everyone knows what you're doing. You know, and I think that's brilliant because it's like he's not imitating Puffy, and it's almost like every character he does. It's not like a direct mimic like a Frank Caliendo or Jamie Foxx, but it's a funny, exaggerated facsimile, and it's just as funny. So like, he's not dancing exactly like Puff. He's giving you the vibe that Puff gives you. It's just like this, you know, and everyone knows what that is.
Yeah,
and it's just hilarious right away, you know.
It's been painted with a goofy brush,
Exactly.
in a way. So you just, and for the physical sort of button on it makes it just so goddamn funny.
Absolutely.
It's really, really great.
And it's like, of all the people who, you know, Puff has been in the news a lot recently. But
Yeah.
for all the people who didn't catch him, the one person who catches him is like a street affiliated kind of guy, but more known for his dancing, and that's kind of funny too. And I'm sure he didn't dance, but that's hilarious that he would dance in front of the guy. So Dave has a knack for like picking and choosing when he acts things out, and I think some guys are full tilt with the act outs, or full tilt with the energy, and you know, it's like any sport. You don't got to be the fastest. It helps if you're fast, but you do have to know how to adjust speed. You can get just as much done adjusting speed, and Chappelle is the best at it because he goes into boom, act out, back to, because you love the act outs, but you're perfectly fine if he doesn't do it because he's so engaging.
Yeah, his storytelling chops are so great that the act outs are just a little bit of frosting on the cake,
Right.
And he knows he doesn't have to stack it with frosting because the cake itself is so solid,
Right.
and delicious, that he doesn't have to go there. So just a little bit of act outs here and there, and he chooses his spots when to do it. And it just adds to the master storytelling that's
Absolutely.
going on here. And that's what it is. He's telling a story.
Perfect analogy. I love that analogy.
Thank you.
Well, they got that motherfucker. And then every celebrity just ran out because every celebrity saw themselves in me, and they just started beating the fuck out of that kid. And I know Chris was backstage looking like, nobody helped me. Everybody hates Chris. Look, it was way more intense than what you guys might have read. I don't know what you read, but the kid, while we was beating on him, reached in his waistband, pulled out a .22 caliber pistol. That shit was mayhem. Everybody started screaming, oh my God, he's got a gun. He's got a gun. And then I got scared. I was in the back, but I was scared. Because I knew that everybody that was with me was armed. Yes, if they had shot and killed this kid on stage at the Hollywood Bowl, like I pay you to do, Travis, but Travis G'd up. Travis wrestled the gun out of the kid's hand, and then he took it like this and tried to chamber the round, and he couldn't. So he pulled the trigger, and it wasn't a gun. A knife blade popped out of the front. I guess this kid was gonna stab me. Some scary shit. So the next night, even though I didn't have a show, I said, I gotta get right back on stage. And I went and did a show. And someone in the audience screamed out, Dave, what happened with the attack? And I didn't know there was journalists in the room. All I said was that this nigga had a knife that identified as a gun. I got 6 more weeks of bad press for that joke. I didn't even do nothing to this thing. That's not right. That was not right. And then the New York Post went to the jail and interviewed my attacker like he was some kind of hero. And I read that interview. Turns out the entire attack was my fault. Yes, I triggered him. I didn't mean to. I had done jokes about the homeless. It turns out this young man was homeless. And I mean, there's no way I could have known this. But I will say, for a homeless guy, this nigga had incredible seats.
And I'm so glad he addressed that because I've been to the Hollywood Bowl a few times. And that was my question was, did he sneak in? Mm-hmm. Did he? I mean, it doesn't seem like the hardest place in the world to sneak in, to be honest with you, right? Because it's like bushes around it. But at the same time, yeah, how did he make his way to the stage, you know? And so him making that joke is very important because people have that question. And that's what makes people think, was this staged? What, you know? He didn't necessarily put that to bed by that, but at least he acknowledges that, yeah, that's a little weird that he was
so
in
weird.
The front row.
Because the front row of a Chappelle show would cost
Hollywood Bowl, yeah, that'd be
a lot.
That'd be some money,
that,
yeah.
That would be a lot.
But like I said, it's got to be, I think you could probably sneak into the Hollywood Bowl easier than the Crypto Center or whatever they're calling it now.
Oh, and they said I triggered him because I had done LBGTQ jokes, and it turns out this fellow was a bee. That was the headline of the article. It said, Dave Chappelle's alleged attacker is bisexual. I said, alleged attacker? This motherfucker definitely attacked me. I'll show you the tape. He's allegedly bisexual. I'm gonna need to see him suck somebody's dick before I believe the rest of this article. I read that shit in the paper. I was horrified. I was like, oh, bisexual? I could have been raped.
It's so good. It's just one on top of the other. It's so great.
And what's brilliant about that is there's this whole thing of all the keywords you hear now, triggering, whatever. And yeah, he's like, I could have been raped. So it's like, if you open the floodgates for certain narratives, then you open a floodgate for the narrative on both sides, right? Like
exactly.
We talk sports. If any athlete will tell you, especially basketball, we don't care if you call a foul or if you don't call a foul. You just got to call it the same way on both ends of the court. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And yeah, he probably. I mean, it's so funny because there's no way this guy rapes him on stage at the Hollywood Bowl, but stranger things have happened, you know.
The commentary is on the media. If you're going to be alarmist
Absolutely.
about how this guy had been done wrong, you need to equally be alarmist on how I was done wrong. Right. And you know what? I'll even exaggerate it with you to show you other possibilities on how I was in danger.
Absolutely.
Because if you want to play that game, I can play that game. And I can play it better than you because I'll get a laugh with my shit.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, like, here's the thing I don't get about the triggering thing. Like, as a comic, for me, people say, I get this a lot, and I'm sure I'm a comic. I'm just like other comics. Whatever the makeup is of our shared experiences, personalities, traumas, whatever it is that leads us to comedy, I must have all those things as well. But people always say, oh, you're one of the most normal comics, you know? But then, like, I think, yes and no. And I remember when I was a kid, I had a bad temper. And not like bad, like I got mad at everything. But when I did get mad, it could be somewhat explosive. But at no point did I ever get like let off the hook because someone had triggered me. And give me, I mean, that wasn't a word yet, but I tried. Right? I was like, no,
I'm sure you did.
He did the thing and the thing, and no, I'm right, he's wrong, he did, and they were like, we don't care. That he's wrong. Fine. Still didn't give you the right to do what you did. And now we're kind of going away from that. And I mean, I don't know. What could I have been with triggering? I would have either been in jail or president, because
Yeah.
I just couldn't use that as an excuse. I had to own up to my own actions. And so the fact that this guy attacks him and he can say he's triggered, like Will Smith tried it, but it's like, I don't think it worked. It was like, what are you doing, Will? You smack someone smaller than you. But Will he tried to sort of like tap into that I've been triggered energy, so it makes it okay. Mm-hmm. Like you said, if you want to be alarmist, like what's the who gets to say where the limit to that is? Because I could just slap up someone, like walk them to the street and slap someone I don't know. Pow! I was triggered.
Right.
Go on your way. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, what did I do to you? You triggered me. Don't worry about what you did.
And if you attach something to it like race or something,
right,
more people will jump on your side.
Right. And I just never had that as a kid. So like, and trust me, if I argue with someone, very rarely do I go, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I was wrong. No, I was right. And I think I'm right for fucking ever. Here's why. Because I thought about it in the moment. I wouldn't have been that indignant and that out of control if I hadn't already done at least a modicum of logic test to think I'm right. So I have, in most cases, 90% of the time, I have justice on my side. I have rightness on my side. And it never mattered. It never mattered. It was like, you got to control yourself.
Well,
and I think that suited me well. That served me well, you know?
There was a time, I don't know if people remember this, and there's a cliche that we all say, actions speak louder than words. Well, we're in a culture now where people are shifting the value more towards words,
right,
and away from actions.
Right.
And we see he's giving you an example, like, bro, I was attacked. Why are you interviewing the guy at the jail to get his words to make it okay?
Right,
because the culture's jumping on words as no, the words. The man was triggered now. This person was insulted. This person felt in danger. You know, there's a whole thing in going on in some states like Florida called the stand your ground rule. You know about this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where if you feel threatened, you can shoot a motherfucker.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like, we're not dismissing feelings, but they can't be proven. Just like intentions can't be proven. So you say actions speak louder than words. Every relationship you've ever had, anyone, I get caught up in motives sometimes. I know this person did that. What's their motive? And I'm trying to, we often try to make some excuse for people. And I think that, like, Chappelle is so crafty with his words. He can find the flaw in that and then hold it up as a mirror to you, And but the other thing is that he makes these jokes, but I think he's always pretty clear, and I think people like him because he always stands on, like, it's clear that he's not hateful. Like, some people will try to mask. Some comics can be hateful. They can be punched down. They can be really mean and mask it, right? Like, sometimes my comedy's a little mean. I'm never really trying to punch down, but I think Chappelle does a good job of explaining that he's not punching down. Whereas, like, I love Jesselnick. He's great. But sometimes he'll say something and then he doesn't qualify it. So then you're like, do you really think that way, Jesselnick? I don't think you do, but it's hard to say. And he's so funny, you let it go. But Chappelle will say, I don't hate these people. I don't this. I feel like, even with his whole trans thing, and some people are probably like, why does he keep going on about it? He didn't talk about it this special, but maybe 2 specials ago. I think he was really clear and concise that he says, I think it bothers me because at the end of the day, it's a white guy issue. And I never thought about that. And I was like, oh. And that's mind-boggling. He's so smart. I'm not saying like that explains everything, but it explains his issue with it. The fact that maybe because it was Caitlyn Jenner or something, but it's like, oh, wait. So arguably the most privileged, top of the food chain person in our society, there's exceptions to every rule, but the top of the food chain person with the flip of a switch also gets to be the most sort of oppressed and victimized. and that's a weird thing.
Super weird.
But
Yep.
but he explained it, and so hopefully I can get a dialogue going. So I think that's why his fans are so with him, because he's so funny, and it's never like it's not some kind of cloak for some kind of hate. I think people try to go there with him, but I also think people try to mute him because he makes too much sense sometimes, you know?
Sure. And back on the actions speak louder than words. I mean, there's undeniable proof about him helping trans comics.
Right.
He talks about one of the instances in one of his specials that he gave this comic stage time and helped her out. And I know personally of a trans comic in Los Angeles who Chappelle has taken on the road and has helped her as well. And she speaks of him as a big time supporter of her career. And she's not shy about saying it. And so there's two instances. I don't know if there's more, but he has shown through his actions that he isn't a hater.
Right. And just like we're not going over in this podcast, this episode, but he has an Asian wife, and he does some pretty base level Asian jokes, but it's more like it's just like a funny thing, connective tissue to get to the next joke, and the crowd is with him because it's like we understand he did that ironically. And then just to be sure you understood, he goes around. He immediately does a really ridiculous black joke. You know what I mean? And so at the end of the day, the reason why we always, the comic community, but also people, when you read comment sections, they would say, protect this man at all costs, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think we have to protect Chappelle at all costs. Like I said, I don't necessarily want the smoke. I'm not really... that kid who was angry and could fight teachers, that's still a part of me. So I don't have the wherewithal to like block out all the noise. And some people, I can ignore people, but some people won't be ignored. You know what I mean? And so I don't want the smoke. I mean, I'm not afraid to talk about certain issues, but I never want the smoke because I don't trust that people will correctly convey my thoughts and my words. And I think they're going to twist my words. Chappelle is just upper echelon where he's just so crafty and / powerful that he can ensure that to some extent that his words won't get twisted. Yeah,
and I think this is one of the reasons why Netflix keeps the specials up, keeps working with him.
Right.
Because everybody trying to get these off, and Netflix is like, no, you guys are twisting his words. You guys are taking some piece of it and running with it. You're taking it out of context, and you keep sending us emails. You keep writing these reviews,
right.
But we're keeping it,
right?
Because at the end of the day, he's not the guy you say he is.
And you know what? He opens this with a trans thing, which there's not that much trans stuff here. Just this is something coming up. I think identifies the gun. There's not much trans stuff, but I think he put a little bit in just to show you he's not afraid. Like his whole career, and I've met him a few times, is he's where he's at because he's fearless, Like everything he's done, he's always proven to be fearless. Like he does, like when I met him, he was like, when I first met him, he's doing like the Village scene. That's why I met him out, like Lower Manhattan in the Village, kind of mainstream rooms, killing it. I think he had just done the Robin Hood Men in Tights. But then he also does Def Jam. He also does Black Rooms. And he's, other than Charlie Barnett, who's passed away, he was the only other comic that I personally know who did comedy outside in Washington Square Park. And like Charlie Barnett's act was designed to be an outdoor act. I think at that point Charlie may have been on drugs and he just was doing anything to get his money up. But Chappelle is doing Chappelle outside. And the key to outside comedy is getting a crowd. That's like, once you got him, okay, but you got to get the crowd. That's crazy. You got to give him his props. You got to.
I didn't know he did that. I had heard of the legend of Charlie Barnett, of course.
Chappelle did it.
I didn't know Chappelle had done that
many times. I'm sure there's clips of it. Yeah, like
I would never dare do something like that.
right.
That is, to me, that seems impossible. Getting the crowd and getting them crowd. To you're creating an environment of
crowd.
Paying attention.
And listen, you're not juggling. You're not walking on glass. You're not like in Venice. There used to be the one-man band. He had like a cymbal here, a cymbal on his feet, a guitar.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not doing that.
Or loud boombox, and they're all dancing.
You're not breakdancing.
It's showtime. Like those acts are built to grab attention. They're louder. There's something to see.
Right. Your Chappelle,
comedy.
Your style is to lean on the mic, and you go to the park, and make that translate. You know what I mean?
I can't believe that.
So yeah, he's not gonna.
That's crazy.
He's not gonna be muted, and but at the same time, he's not trying to just be. I don't think he's trying to be contrarian for contrarian's sake. You know, but he's actually like one of. There's a few others. You know, Bill Burr. There's a few guys who are like. You know, I do my part, but there's a few guys who are like are really. The dam won't break because of them, and we, you know, until we have Gestapo knocking on our door or whatever, these guys are like sort of the last bastion of, you know, free speech.
No. You know what though? It's not funny because after all that madness ensued, I went to the hotel room. I was by myself, and I opened the door, and my wife was in there alone. She was sobbing, like sobbing. I said, "Oh my God, what's wrong with you, bitch? Did you get attacked too?"
And see, I mean, it's his own wife, and this taps into what we're saying. Like, obviously, she cares about him and stuff, but again, he's like, you know, in that one moment, without saying it, and it's his wife, so she absolutely has a right to be really upset, right? Who knows what could have happened? But there's this thing of, like, when Chris Rock came out, it's my attack.
Mm-hmm.
When his wife was like, did you get attacked too? It's basically like, let the person who's whatever injustice happened to, let's hear what they got to say first. Because I'm sure, like, a lot of the vitriol he got was not, I mean, it was the trans community, but I'm sure some of it was not from the trans community. So there's something there in, like, reminding people, like, let the victim sort of, like, set the tone for how we react to this thing, if there is a victim, you know?
Yeah, and he even mentions in the bit how the media or some journalist went to the jail to interview his attacker.
That's bananas. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's
he says it in the bit. Like, they went and interviewed the attacker to get his side of the story, you know. So, again, his victimization is, like, being pulled from him. Yeah.
Yes, and the thing is that because he's a storyteller, and, like, he's not like a Stephen Wright, set up punch. I think whatever you're really, really good at in life, if you're so good at one thing, it just people will naturally discredit you at some other thing that you may be really good at too. Like, Steph Curry is a great shooter, so he doesn't always get credit for being a pretty good finisher around the rim, and below the rim. You know, he's not dunking, but he's giving you either hand. He's using his body. The only better finisher below the rim is Kyrie Irving, but Steph, we're gonna talk about his shooting because he's so good at that.
Mm-hmm.
And Chappelle is such a great storyteller that we just completely overlook. He has an economy of words. You know, like there's no fat. Like it feels like he's just talking, but the words are precise and there are no extra words. You just don't notice it because it's a storytelling kind of format.
And if you watch it the way we're watching it, which the viewers should, well, this is probably how you're going to have to see it anyways. The transcript comes on the screen, so you can actually see how few words are coming up.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of this empty space where he's letting it breathe.
That's a great point.
He's building little bits of tension because he knows he's going to pull a rug on you a little bit on this next one. He's going to turn a little bit here, and he's letting that tension build. And it's the economy of words that you see.
Yeah.
It's really, truly masterful storytelling. I wish all the women I dated told stories like this. I'm so sorry. Was that out loud? I'm like, I can't. Can you get away? 45 minutes in. We're still in the prologue. We're still in the prologue. Okay, right. We got economy of words.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get canceled for that, Dwayne.
No.
This is our last episode. I'm so sorry. Right. I'm so sorry.
I think as a comic, I wouldn't mind to see him working out this stuff. like to see how it looks when it's sort of before it gets chiseled down. You know, not everyone loves that process because usually what it is when a big time comic like Dave Chappelle or Chris Rock, when they're working on their stuff, they don't really have a place to practice, so they just pop up at a comedy club and go, "Hey, can I go on?" And the owners are like, "Fuck yeah," you know, like yeah. And then that usually means you bump other comics, and then people like they were gonna go and just crush. They have their 10 minutes ready to go, and then instead you're like lollygagging for 20 minutes. But the crowd, I think, still wants to see that, and you get the end product is this. So, you know, and those guys have earned the right to do that. You know.
Yeah, Dave's in a different position than most comics in that, where I think he's at the point now where I don't know if he can just drop in because now he's in a situation where he wants to control all the cell phones in the building.
That's true.
So
That's
now
true. Yeah.
he's making sure that cell phones are locked, and all his shows are like that. You have to lock your cell phone out. You can't. So we won't see. We'll see it live if we actually go to one of these shows, but it's going to be. He's going to be planning to be there because he wants to control those clips. There isn't going to be these leaked early versions of what we're seeing leaked by people's cell phones on TikTok and Instagram. So, he's a special case in that. So where is he working this stuff out? How is he working it out? I think his only option is to book shows for himself that he can control the phones, or get on other people's shows who those comics had locked the show, locked the phones.
Put like this: if you go to your local comedy club, and it seems like a regular night, regular Thursday, regular Friday, Joe Blow is going to be there. You know, maybe you saw Joe Blow the last time. Joe Blow's pretty funny. Let's go see Joe Blow. And you get there, and the club is like, yeah, we're collecting phones because Joe Blow doesn't want. And you're like, don't go, man, fuck Joe Blow. I'm not going to. Because Chappelle might come out.
Yeah, there's a reason for that. Yeah. So that must happen as well. So you might be thrown off when you get to the club. You're like, why does my phone have to be shut off to Scott? It's Carlos Mencia.
Come on. What I'm saying is this, is like, and if Joe Blow still goes up first, then maybe Joe Blow, the club is going to pay Joe Blow his money. He's going to get paid. And it's like, Joe Blow, you were going to do 45, just give us 20. He's going to crush because he's going to do his best 20. And Joe Blow is hilarious. And then, as a little treat, you get to see Dave Chappelle.
Yeah. And
work out this stuff.
Yeah, and that's the other hint. The other clue is Joe Blow is supposed to be the last guy, but he's going on a little early, suspiciously early in the show.
Yeah, Joe.
There's a reason for that.
We just got our chicken wings. Why is Joe Blow?
That's right.
The cheese sticks just came out, and Joe Blow.
Yeah, and trust me, that's good for Joe Blow because Joe Blow doesn't want to follow Chappelle doing 45 or 50 minutes of this new stuff that he's trying to work out.
And if Joe Blow kills it, Chappelle might be like, Joe Blow, that was pretty good. Come with me on the road.
Come with me on the road and open me, Joe Blow. Yeah, that kind of stuff happens as well. Yeah, but yeah, I would love to see him work out this stuff because he obviously can do it quickly because you see how fast these specials come out. He has a great method where he can just distill it down to the economy of words that we see on these specials. He's doing it rather quickly because he's just completely mastered this, obviously.
Absolutely. And also, there's a point earlier in this special where he does talk about, like, he talks about working it out in front of crowds, and he's very, forthright about that. About, I think he doesn't talk about bombing or working it out, but what he says is sometimes I'm doing a show, and I'll just pop up and do a show, like just like you're saying, like it'll be like almost like a pop up, like, hey guys, Chappelle's in town tomorrow, and he's at a point where, depending on the size of the city or town, within 2 days you can have a 1,000 seats theater completely packed, right? So whatever the case, 1,000, 2,000, whatever it is, he says, I'm working out stuff in these kind of places, and he goes, and I'll do a joke, no one will laugh. And we've all experienced this as a comic. You know what he's talking about. This is earlier in the special. I'll do a joke, hardly anyone laughs, but 3 people are cracking up. And he goes, that's the one. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And as a comic, you understand what he's saying. how I break that down, and me personally as a comic, is that if I do a joke that, especially if I think it's funny, if I'm like, this could be funny, but if I'm like, I think this is really funny, and I'm in a room, I'm at a club somewhere, 200 people, gets a mild response, but like 4 people are cracking up, then my job is to make sure those 4 people don't leave without us connecting. Following me on Instagram, let me get your email.
Yes.
Because those 4 people, those are your people. And so with Chappelle, you know, he knows his people. You know, so especially if he pops up and it's like not his show, he only needs 4 people to laugh because he knows I can multiply that 4 by 4,000, no problem. And they'll find me and they'll like this material, you know?
Yeah, this was a great bit. I was so glad that you chose this, really. And it's basically just a story.
Yeah, you know, this special is so good. As I watched it, and I don't watch a lot of specials just because I'm busy and also I don't want to be too influenced, you know, kind of like do my stuff in the bubble. You know, in case I come up with a similar joke, I'm like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. As a comic, you know when something is so easy, you're like, oh, other people have to be doing this. But other than that, I try to be in a bubble somewhat. But as I was watching this, I really enjoyed it. And I thought to myself, it's so seamless and flowing as a conversation. I immediately went to, okay, on Sirius FM or on Spotify, what are the tracks? Like, I couldn't even tell where
you would cut it up.
Where you'd cut it to be like, oh, this is a new track. You know, and that's a good thing because that means it's so conversational. As a comic, I mean, you know, this is a little inside baseball here, but, you know, you used to like, you didn't mind if you had an hour special and there were like 6 tracks. But now you kind of want 12 to 14 to 15 tracks because when this streaming services play it, few pennies. Mm-hmm. So I mean, you could be really stupid and make every word a track. So it's like you guys played 20 tracks, baby, my money.
I think we found the hack there.
And the thing is, like, it's interesting because I'm older than Dave Chappelle, and like just the phenomenon of meeting someone, but he's older in comedy than I am, you know, and early on, when I was an open micer, I started seeing him, and I was like, this guy's great. And, you know, he's fulfilled his promise. He's even better than he was then, you know. Just absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
One of the things I thought would be important to point out to some of the listeners and viewers is because everybody tends to glom on to the trans jokes. Mm-hmm. He's been just vilified in the social media for this, and sort of taken on the title of a transphobe, even, you know,
right.
And it's trickled not only in that community, but I mean, it's trickled out.
You say something enough, people who aren't even paying attention
they just take that on.
They take that narrative.
Yeah. The clickbait culture that we live in, it's very easy to just carry that along with you as a horrible meme. And you didn't even bother to watch any of the material, you know, which is not fair to the artist in any way. But even in this one bit, he's telling us, he's making fun of Chris Rock, one of his best friends. He says he's been clowning him for 3 months after the slap. Right. He just clowns him. He clowns Diddy in here. He clowns his bodyguard in here.
Jamie
he
Foxx.
Clowns his wife. He clowns him.
Jon Stewart, yes.
Later on, he clowns himself. His
Right.
face. He makes fun of himself.
Right.
This guy doesn't have any agenda on some niche group in our culture. He is a total agnostic. He jokes about things that he thinks are silly, funny things he wants to joke about, and it could be his best friend who he admits he clowned for 3 months. Right.
Exactly.
So these people that are saying he's horrible, he hates this LGBTQ community and this and that, you're full of shit. You're just completely full of shit. And if you want to see that you're full of shit, watch his body of work. Or talk to the people in that community who I alluded to this earlier, who he has helped.
Or you're not fully, fully paying attention. It's like in life, just on a personal level, we've all had a friend come to us. Yo, you won't believe what such and such said or did. Da 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 da. And or something where they want you to take their side or come to their aid. And you're like, what? They did what? Yeah, let's go. And then you go to the other person, and then you hear their side, and you're like, oh, okay. It wasn't exactly how you described it. So you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think you have to really delve in. And also, like you said, he makes fun of everybody. And I want to tread lightly, but then again, I don't. If he's tapping any subject matter, any group, anything a little more than he should, then that's just the innate comic in him seeking some sort of correction. Because as comics, not all comics, but a lot of comics, we come from a place of anti-bullying. There was a period in the 90s where you could say, like, the jock comedy kind of was at the forefront, but that was just a weird movement. I think, Eddie Murphy was a rock star with leather, and then Andrew Dice Clay was a rock star. So there's a little period where there's a lot of rock star comedy, but all other forms of comedy is underdog comedy. It's for the most part, it's been a person who's either an underdog or represents the underdog. So I don't think he would punch down, but I think he would correct if he saw some kind of bullying. And I think that's the thing we got to understand is bullying goes both ways. And so this is not like, some guy in the Midwest just pandering, or in the South, like pandering to a super right audience, saying what they want to hear. This is not that, right? This is a thoughtful person being like, hey, slow down. Let's remain thoughtful. And that's different, because anyone can say what the crowd wants to hear. That sounds different. That's why he does the Asian joke about his own wife, because he wants to make sure you understand that I'm going to be unpredictable. I'm not saying what I think you want to hear. I'm saying what I think you need to hear. Big difference.
Well, this special is on Netflix, correct? 2023?
Yeah, Netflix.
Dave Chappelle, The
Yes.
Dreamer.
Yeah, this is solid. And it's 56 minutes. It feels like it's 5 minutes. So, good time. Time flies when you're having fun. It's that kind of deal.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Shout out to Dave, because he's like, he's a force.
I'm looking forward to the next special, which I'm sure is going to cover election season.
Probably so. Yeah.
And he's one of these guys that you want to sort of you want to hear what they have to say about important issues in the culture.
Absolutely. And even take Trump. He didn't. When he did SNL right when Trump was elected, if you remember, and he's talked about Trump a few times, and it's never just a simple, shit on Trump or shit on the people who support him. It's always thoughtful. It's always more like he understands why. You know what I mean? And that's super valuable. But here's a guy who grew up in Ohio and DC, and just is super cultured and kind of gets it. And again, he's a wordsmith, and I think it's so interesting that you can be such a great storyteller and people overlook that you're also a wordsmith, like super precise with your language,
Anyways, that was great. If you haven't subscribed to the show, please do. Please like it, share it. And if there's a comic that you would love us to watch and break down, a specific bit, just drop it, the comic's name and the name of the special or the bit in the comments, or email us, and the email's right in the show notes. So thank you so much.
Rosebud.
Yes. It could.